This is Max Sterling. Welcome to LarpGasm. So today I'm going to do some modding on a Nerf gun. Now there's a lot of videos out there about modding Nerf guns, so you can pick and choose videos you want to watch. I'm going to go through some of the more standard mods on a Nerf Maverick, which is the easiest gun to get your hands on. It's probably the most used, most seen that you'll see in LARPs because it just looks like a pistol. It has a revolving chamber that shoots the darts. So it's a pretty simple setup. They're not very expensive, so if you screw it up, no one really cries over it. I mod a lot of Nerf guns. I've modded tons and tons of guns. Nerf guns and other guns, airsoft guns. But I wanted to just keep it simple because if you're going to maybe a LARP, something that's like a post-apocalyptic or maybe something that's, cyberpunk or something along those lines, you may need a gun, or you may even just want it as a prop for a convention or something for cosplay, or maybe you do steampunk stuff. I mean, whatever. Maybe you just want to, take the guns that you and your friends mess around with and make it look a little bit better. So that's what we're going to do. And we'll go ahead and show you some of the basics on it and, go through the steps. I'm going to spare you watching me unscrew the thing and do a lot of stuff. So this is more of like a intermediate level video. We're just going to assume you know how to unscrew a gun and take the stuff out of it. So that's where we're going to start. So without further ado, how to mod a Nerf Maverick. So here we have the gun. Like I said, I already took out all the screws and disassembled it. I've already lost most of the pieces. Little springs have bounced out. Don't do that. If you can, keep the side with the screws face up. Keep the screws in it. When you lift the pieces out, set them aside so that everything stays in place real nice. If you forget to do that, well, just make sure your screws don't roll away too far. So the goal is to go from something that looks like this into something that looks like that, or something that looks like this, or something that looks like that. So that's what we're going to shoot for. Just making this gun look better. Now, if you do decide to paint these things up, these Nerf guns always have all these little words and all these little Nerf symbols and stuff on them. Do yourself a favor, take that stuff off of there. Like this one, it should say Maverick Rev 6 right on here. I've already sanded that off. I'll get around to doing this a little bit here. On the other side, you can see it used to say Nerf on here. I left the kid's name from the yard sale on there, but it had Nerf up here, Rev 6 on here. Sanded all of that off. When you open this up, you're going to have some parts. So you get your chamber, you got your spring, got your air chamber, and the rest of your parts here. This stuff you're going to leave in there. Unless, of course, you want to paint it. Then you're not going to. So the mods we're going to focus on is going to revolve around this little air chamber, making this so it drops out of the side. Normally these just slide a little bit open. If you have one, you know what I mean. But we're going to make it slide far out so it swings way out of the gun so it's easier to load. And of course we're going to do the penny trick with the spring. I got to go find 3 pennies and we'll go ahead and continue. Okay, so we might as well just go ahead and start with the chamber here. So this piece will be pressed on here and held on by this little orange guy. So what you want to do to get that off, get yourself a flathead screwdriver. I already did it. And you would just stick the screwdriver down in and basically pry it off. So it's just held on by pressure. Once it pries off, you have these 2 pieces. Just go ahead and set them aside for now. Then from there, you'll be able to remove this rear piece. And inside here, is where the magic happens. Now, if you want to, you can also do something. I'll show you this in a second. But here is the part where people always tell you to remove these. So when you pop this off of here, you got the long stem, you got this little air compensator, whatever it is, with a spring. So this thing and the spring, you just get rid of all of those so that you just have these. So I'm going to go ahead and spare you watching that, but I'm just going to pull all of these off. Okay? I find it very interesting that inside the same gun, there are all these different colored air restrictors. It's very strange to me that there's so many different colors. Usually they're all black. I've never seen this varied array of colors, so I don't know what that means or where this came from, but I also went ahead and took this black piece out. Don't lose the little spring that goes on it. Alright, now on these, something you don't see people usually do, there's 3 screws on here, and then there's this sort of like sleeve here, right? So let's go ahead and take that off. Okay, so I took these 3 screws out. That leaves us with this, so we'll go ahead and just pull that section out of there. Okay, that leaves us with this. The next step is to take all these little guys and break these stems off. Now, if you're a man, you can probably just do that with your hand. If you're not, you might have to use a pair of pliers or something to break them off. Ideally, the closer you get to the base, the better. So you might be able to break some of it with your hand, but you might have to come back and use pliers to get it down. So that's pretty smooth. I'm not too concerned with sanding. Some people will drill this out, but really, I've experimented both ways, and just leaving them like this is fine, but taking the pegs off seems to help a little bit. So we'll go ahead and just take all of them, break them off. And I'm going to spare you having to watch any more of that. Alright, so the reason we take these off of here is so that there isn't any friction when the arrow is sitting on it. I don't personally think that it is really that much friction, but as you can see when it's on there like this, then there's absolutely none. So that's the idea. So I got all these broken off, so now it's time to return these onto this section. You notice we're not putting the air restrictors or the springs back on, we're just putting these pieces directly back on to the revolving part of the chamber, and they should just stick on like that. So now coming back to this, now you have a decision. Most people don't do this. You can take this and you can put that back on there. You can have it look like a stock gun, or you can just take this and stick it back on there and have it be more, and have it look more like there's chambers or barrels, as opposed to having this sort of shroud around it. So that's up to you. I am going to leave it that way. I'm going to take this shroud and we'll put it down in this box with all the other shrouds I have. So that's where we're at. So that's that part of the mod. Pretty easy. Had to go find 3 pennies on my floor, so this part will be coming up towards the end. But like I said, we want to make sure that this is a swing out barrel. So in order to do that, there's 2 things we have to do. One of them involves this little notch right here, and the other involves that little yellow lip sticking down right there. Basically, we got to rip them off. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so I clipped this off mostly with pliers and a pair of clippers. You can also use a Dremel and a file. It doesn't hurt to come back here with sandpaper and clean it up. You saw me do this piece on my grinding wheel. So if you don't have a big grinding wheel like that, you can use a Dremel, sandpaper, file, whatever you want to. Just use some sandpaper, clean up. It doesn't have to be real clean, just depends on how clean you want it to look. Okay, so normally somewhere in this process I would be painting all of this stuff, letting it dry, but for now, what we're going to do is we're just going to stick this back on here. Now, yes, you're going to have holes where screws are missing, there and there. If you want to get a really long bolt and put it through there, I think that would look very cool if you're trying to do a steampunk thing with it. But if you're not, all you got to do is just put the pieces back together. And what will happen is when you put this compressed rod back through here, what will happen is that'll actually hold this entire assembly together. You don't even need the screws. So go ahead and just stick that back down through. And then once we get this back together, it'll be done. And we'll So this is what our new improved version of it looks like without the sleeve on it. Now, if you don't have enough compression to hold this together when you hammer that on, this one actually came out a little bit loose. What I'm going to have to do is what I mentioned where we have these screw holes. They run the entire length down and they line up on this end. So what I would have to do is go to like a hardware store or online somewhere and find really long bolts and put them through, which, like I said, I think would actually look pretty cool. If not, you could probably just use like a piece of a coat hanger and just like pound it down on the two ends, or some wire, or anything that's basically just going to hold this thing together. But for now, I'm just going to put it together like this, and then I'll get the bolts for it later on. I'm not really too concerned. When you put this back in here, make sure that these go into the correct spot. This plunger here, you may have to slide back to get it back into place, but that's pretty much it. This mod will allow this chamber to swing much further out than it did previously. I'm going to go ahead and mod the little plunger next, and this is a pretty easy one as well. Okay, so the plunger just pulls apart the two pieces. You have this O-ring here. What we do is we take a little piece of electrical tape, and you have to cut it to size with scissors. Pop this O-ring off, wrap the electrical tape around, pop the O-ring back on. Pretty easy stuff. Makes that O-ring stick out a little bit more. Now if you have something you can lubricate that with, that'd be great. If not, it should still be a little slimy from before. The trick is to get it back into the chamber without it slipping off. Alright. Now of course you want to make sure it's not too tight. If it's too tight, it will interfere with the way it acts, but actually I think that that's perfect. So that's what you want to do. We're going to put this right back in the gun where it goes. Alright. Next mod is the 3 pennies. That's the easy one. So you get yourself 3 pennies. I like to put all my Lincoln's heads up for good luck. You're just going to stick them right against that back plate. And then your spring's going to go in. Let me go ahead and do that. I'll show you what it looks like. Alright, so got the plunger back in position. Got the spring in position. Got the 3 pennies behind it. Got this black piece back in position. Don't lose this spring when you take it apart. When you put this back on, make sure this orange part of the plunger is in front of that yellow part, If it's behind it, it's not going to work. Okay. And as far as mods, that's it. So we got the revolving chamber so it swings out, plus we took the shield off. Got the plunger system, we got the 3 pennies. Let me go ahead and put this back together. So this is it done. If you have power tools, you can probably use them to remove these screws, no problem. Putting them back in, I'd be a little bit more careful. Like I said, you can see the difference in this compared to a normal one. Now, I'll come back in later and I'll shave this off and this warning off here very easily. But now you can see that this is better than previously. So before it would have just popped out a little bit, now it pops all the way out, so it's much easier to load. You can access 4 or 5 of these barrels at once instead of just the one, like a standard gun one. So it just pops right back into place, and that's basically it. As far as these mods, appearance wise, yeah, it makes a difference. Loading wise, yeah, it makes a difference. The 3 penny thing, I don't really know. I've done a bunch of these. Sometimes they shoot further, sometimes they don't shoot as far. So it really depends. I mean, I would say try it, see what happens. If it sucks, take them back out. On this particular one, I think I'm going to drop it down to 2 pennies because I tried it with the 3rd one. It didn't seem to be doing real well, so I'm going to take one of them out of there, and I think that'll put in the sweet spot. But like I said, I'll get some long screws to put in here, steampunk it up, paint it, and that's it. So that's how to mod a Nerf Maverick, basically, without all the boring steps in between. The only negative thing about Nerf guns is you always end up with extra parts. This gun is fairly forgiving because all the screws are the same size except for the ones that go in here. So if you accidentally screw up and don't put them in the right place, you should still be okay. But if you want to pull apart a bigger gun, something like that, man, you better label some stuff and you better have some separate cups to keep track of it, because if not, you're going to be in big trouble. Alright, a few closing comments on this. Yes, 2 pennies was good on this one. Like I said, sometimes it's going to be 2, sometimes it's going to be 3. This is a 2 penny gun, so that's what I went with. When you're wrapping that plunger with the electrical tape, 1 layer, just come to even. Don't overlap at all. If you overlap, it'll make that plunger too tight. This one I got away with okay, but in the past I've gone over and overlapped it, even though I just a little bit made the plunger too tight. It should come just to flush with it. So you're going to have to really do good with the scissors or get an X-Acto knife out. Try to measure it real well if you want to do that trick. I'm not sure how much that really gives you. That's probably one you could skip, but definitely do the pennies. Definitely do this. As far as shooting, I mean, like I said, I don't necessarily know if there's much of a increase over stock. I'm guessing that's probably about 25 feet to my garage door from here. So, in most LARP scenarios, that's about the distance you're going to have anyways, especially if you're outside with wind and stuff. I mean, if you're shooting any further distance than that, I mean, with how wonky these darts are and stuff, there's probably a pretty small chance you're going to hit anyhow. So, for close range, good stuff. If I put the screws in and paint this, I'll post an update, but for right now, I think I'm just going to leave this one go with this. Alright, that's all I got for you. This is Max Sterling. Adventure on.
Do it! Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday you said tomorrow, so just do it! Make your dreams come true. Just do it! Some people dream of success, well, you're going to wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. You should get to the point where anyone else would quit, but you're not going to stop there. No, what are you waiting for? Just do it! Just do it! Yes, you can. Just do it. If you're tired of starting over, stop giving up. Click subscribe.